2024, Driving Business.
Good morning. Welcome to Smart Men's Business. I'm Andrew Barigi. Yes, with Masaka Tsumi this morning as we're going to be driving your business. It's yet another business day. I hope you're really having it really quite great and hope it started quite in a very high perspective. Like I always say, it's very important to set your priorities right as you head towards the day. Good morning, Masi. How was your morning generally? It's another business day.
Oh, good morning, Andrew. Good morning, Uganda. And the entire globe. Of course, it's Monday, it's Tuesday actually.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. And of course, it's the 20th of June 2023. And of course, it was quite a good morning actually. Light showers of rain. And
light showers,
a morning blessing. So for some people, it's morning blessing. So I hope your day starts well for everyone that is watching out there. And of course, we have much more for you and stuff for you regarding business. Whatever you need, we are right here to give you the very best.
All right, very, very, very interesting. I don't know what your perspective is for the day, but definitely it's always very important to keep that aspect very, very, very positive in a way. Well, we have quite lots of discussions that are going to be coming up on the show. Remember, it's the budget month, the budget that was read just last week. And of course, there is what we call the post-budget analysis, trying to make the different people to understand what the budget is really about. Of course, most of these conversations that we shall be having on the show throughout this month are going to be rather relying largely on understanding what the budget is. Of course, with different organizations giving up their different opinions, civil society organizations, private related organizations coming up with all these particular ideologies. And of course, how best can they position themselves to be a part of the different programs that the government has put in place to make sure that we achieve economic recovery 2023-2024 financial year. Remember, of course, majority of the East African countries spread their budgets too. And, that was quite an increase, right?
Yes.
And all attributed to economic recovery and all of that. Well, before we get into the conversation, don't forget the markets on the Zabo platform, which are going to be opening anytime. That is from now. Yes, the markets will be opening at exactly 8:15 a.m. and they will be closing at 3:15 p.m. Now, for you to be a part of this, it's very simple. Just dial *292# as you'll be available with a number of options where you will be able to buy government bonds and securities for as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Yes, now markets open at 8:15 up to 3:15, and this is effective Monday up to Friday, but this week they are on public holidays, so that means you have a whole rest of the 3 days to capitalize and make yourself quite some huge profits for you there. The markets don't operate on the weekends and the public holidays also, but now this is quite a very golden opportunity for you, business person right there. This is another dimension of trade which can really transform your life. Now, Zab simply says, my money, my future, and Alltech East Africa tells us, do something new. And now to kickstart off on our morning call this Tuesday morning, of course, the Uganda Airlines making quite lots of headlines in here where it started its first what it called the maiden direct Haji flight. Yes, and of course, Uganda Airlines yesterday launched its maiden flight. That is to the Muslim holy city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia, as it readies to establish scheduled flights. That is to the Gulf nation later this year. Now, the national carrier is carrying 200 Muslim citizens, of course, making it the trip for the Hajj pilgrim aboard. That is its 258 capacity Airbus, that is the A330 aircraft. Now, according to the executive director, that is Jennifer Bamturaki, that is the executive officer, she said that they have their maiden flight, that is to Jeddah, and this is the first time that is it has happened in a space of about 40 years. Now, it is a very historic moment that is for the country and the airlines. That is according to the statements that she made. Now, Ms. Bamturaki added that another 250 passengers would be flown to Jeddah. That is on Tuesday. Now, Ugandan Muslim pilgrims have in the past been forced to connect through, that is their countries, other countries for their pilgrimage. That is making the journey long, expensive, and tedious at the same time. Now, Hajj is at least once in a lifetime obligation. That is for all the able-bodied Muslims of financial means to make. Now some 2 of the 3 million people participate in the 6-day spiritual annually, and about 50 Ugandans heading to Mecca, of course, were stranded at the Khartoum airport when the deadly Sudan war, of course, war pitting generals broke out. That was in the month of April, just 2 months ago. Now, of course, according to Ms. Bamturaki, the airline plans to establish, that is, scheduled flights between Uganda and Saudi Arabia by September this year. This is, I think, quite very remarkable. Now, of course, still further, we see that the operator's permit that they currently have will go up to July. Yes, up to July next year, and they shall extend it to July. Now, of course, that is some of the remarks coming in here. And currently, the airline flies regional routes, Nairobi and Mombasa, that is in Kenya. And of course, South Sudan, capital Juba, there is Jaro, Dar es Salaam, there is Zanzibar, that is in Tanzania. It also flies to Mogadishu, Somalia, and Bujumbura, and Burundi at the same time. We cannot talk about those, and we really don't talk about matters regarding that. So that is matters regarding the Uganda Airlines making its first maiden Hajj flight, that is to Mecca, and quite a great exposure, I'll say.
Oh, of course, I must say this is quite a great achievement for Uganda Airlines.
Sure.
If you could see for 40 years, this is now happening. That means
it's happening. 40 years.
We are growing as Uganda, and of course, the air transport is actually growing. The fact that we can actually introduce such, and people get straight to Mecca, that is quite something that we should be actually happy about.
Very.
We are growing. The Uganda Airlines, despite the happenings that have been, going on about.
Yeah.
We are growing, so definitely this is call for celebration. I think that is why it has got people's attention. This has been in history. This has been recorded in history, and you can see right there, Bamturaki is very excited about this great achievement, and of course the entire country. It's happy. It's quite amazing to be a citizen, and you are really going in your Airbus and making sure that you reach your destination without going through other. The stopovers are overwhelming.
Very true.
Tired. So definitely a straight flight to where you're going is perfect for any passenger to travel.
All right, very interesting aspect in there, and that is of course been in our morning call as the Uganda Airlines of course makes the maiden flight, direct flight, what we call the Hajj flight, of course since it's 40 years since it last happened, and now it's being revived back. Something quite very positive. Definitely we shall be keeping you posted regarding matters that are happening from that perspective. Well, right about now, let's cross over and take a look at what's happening in the press.
We had a maiden flight to Jeddah. We've taken our brothers and sisters to Mecca. It's the first time in 40 years, so it's a very historic time for us as a country and as an airline. We took 200 passengers. There was a challenge with their visas coming out on time, and then tomorrow we will be taking another 250. So yeah, that's what happened today. One of you asked me about the scheduled flights. So the operator's permit we have will go up to July. Then we will extend July next year, that is. So our scheduled flights, we have a plan to start September, and we will be doing Jeddah 3 times a week.
Okay.
And then
maybe you hit on the economic benefits of having our flight routes.
Before I talk about the economic benefit, I think socially, for the religious, from a religious point of view, if you recall, most of them were saying now they don't have to really struggle, because for all these years they've been going via an intermediary point, and there's so much chaos in these intermediary airports. They were also very, very happy that at check-in here in Entebbe, it was extremely organized. They had never seen that before. It was always a cattle market, you know. But the team in Uganda Airlines handled it very professionally with how they checked them in and how they ended up leaving. So on board we had Captain Bob Wakwea, supported by Rashid, and a selection of crew, cabin crew, a selection of cabin crew. So it's going to be a happy flight, I'm sure. Yeah.
So just to be clear, are we also set
to do that? We're set to launch. Internally, we are grappling with when we should do it, because we are working with many stakeholders. But the interesting bit is that we already have an organization set up, a sales organization set up in Saudi. We have a general sales agent that is representing us in Jeddah. So we are doing everything.
That's the executive office of the Ugandan Airlines. That's Ms. Bamturaki in there, giving us further aspects regarding this new development, which is resurfacing after 40 years. Well, that is it for our morning call, and now let's take a look. We have the New Vision and the Daily Monitor as we take a look at what's really making headlines in here. To kick start off, I have the New Vision, and Marcy Katum is going to be taking us through the Daily Monitor, what's really making headlines. Now, of course, on the top page of the New Vision here, we see that Uganda-China trade surpasses 4 trillion Ugandan shillings. That is something very interesting. And of course, in matters of Kasese, the unanswered questions are in here. Of course, as we see 20 people arrested over Kasese school attack, and details emerging school donors probe. Of course, you'll be getting more of those details. And coming in down here, matters regarding the roads, the budget sector receives, that is about 6 trillion Ugandan shillings, and the president's directives to boost tourism. What are they like, and what are they going to be really entailing? Of course, tourism, we know that it's one of those sectors that were not, that okay, we can say that they were underfunded in that regard, but we need to understand what are these directives really going to be about, whether they'll be able to sort of counteract the underfunding that was attributed to the tourism. Now, of course, still in here, quite many headlines in there. Mercy, what do we have that's making headlines on the Daily?
Oh, well, for the case of Kasese, King Mumbere seeks answers on Kasese killings, and of course, last weekend actually, students were murdered. And of course, it was quite not desirable. And of course, people are seeking answers in Kasese, including the king of Renzu. He actually just returned. He just returned home. And of course, it's coincidentally, someone may think it's a bad omen. The moment you get home, such things keep happening. So definitely, he is also seeking for answers. You don't want to be answerable for such things that transpire in your area. And of course, doctors ask government for clean plan on interns.
Plan for interns.
Yes, they were striking, and of course, later on, Dr. Diana Twini said those that will be those that will do intangible, those that will be.
If you're rich.
Yeah, no, not
if they have money.
If you can afford.
Literally, that's what it means.
I know. I don't think. Uganda is perceived things everywhere. Anyway, just a caution. Health Ministry reports raising cases of COVID-19. So you have to be careful as a citizen out there. Put on your mask. If you feel you're getting a cold or a cough or a flu, please put on your mask. Sanitize, carry a sanitizer, keep social distance. This thing is still around. So definitely we have to take caution and be cautious that this thing can kill.
Okay, that is very interesting. Now, still further in here in the division, we take a look at the presidential initiative that is on banana to create jobs. That is for the youth. And of course, this is to improve the value that is added to the banana, something which is going to be very potential to, of course, promoting youth employment within here. And remember, he's been really a key advocate in the past, of course, when it comes to matters of value addition. So adding the value in the bananas, something very necessary, such that we can actually get something big from them. And when you add value also, you cater for what we call the storage aspects, the storage costs, which probably sometimes when you leave the product to be in the raw form, it can be affected in some sort of a sense. Okay.
Oh, well, doctors ask government for clean deployment plan for interns, and of course doctors under the umbrella body, Uganda Medical Association, have asked government to communicate a clear timetable for the deployment of medical interns. Now, the doctors warn that the delaying of the deployment would lead to the collapse of the country's medical sector. And of course, Mlago both calls for more efforts to curb road accidents.
Of course, they're quite. By the way, when you go that side to the ward, you'll be surprised that majority of the people, accidents, there's borders knocked down, and sometimes there is a really limited attention that is given to this majority of the people. And I think it's right to advocate for that accidents, because there are quite lots of cases, and and there are not so many people to attend to these patients, and you find it's overwhelming, and some die in pain.
That's why I think that is why they're calling for
exactly. They're the most casualties.
Because if you realize, if you've gone to hospitals, these interns have really done a tremendous job. They're always in there, They attend to patients.
The patients,
So if and because there are few doctors, they cannot attend to everyone else. So the interns step in, they do what they're supposed to do as they wait for the doctor. So definitely, as we plan for the interns, we should have that in place, that they really contribute a lot to the health sector.
Absolutely.
Well-being of the citizens of Ugandans.
Absolutely true. And now, of course, in matters of Kasese attack, of course, is it a security lapse, or are the criminals getting sophisticated? Now, there are two questions in here. Are we having the security relaxed, or it's the criminals that are becoming much more complicated when it comes to the technology that they use to evade other places? And Kasese is one of those areas that are have tourist attractions, actually, a very potential aspect, and now such incidences really are causing not quite something good. Well, that is it. And now let's cross over and take a look at what's happening. That is into the world of traffic. The images that you are looking at there are coming in all the way right straight from Wandegea. Yes, Wandegea traffic lights. Today is a Tuesday. And of course, that is the situation as you're observing it. Of course, we're having quite a few difficulties, technicalities there, of course, with the present picture. But definitely when things get better, we shall be getting in there. I think we can still proceed as we take a look. I'll still discussing the aspect of the Kasese issue. Of course, we have the tourism
destination. It has a number of parks, and of course, now I'm seeing schools and parents deserting schools because of children are being picked from schools because of these happenings. And of course, for children that survived, it's traumatizing. So definitely, there is need for a psychiatrist to help recover from this thing?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite very devastating in nature. And actually, some countries like America, Britain, had sort of started to, started to issue warnings to majority, to people out there that Uganda is not safe. I mean, quite lots of cases. And well, that is something not good when it comes to PR. This is what they call the PR. The PR of our nation is not really the best at such a time. But anyway, I believe the government is really looking towards making sure that such aspects are really sorted out. Now, of course, in here we see 6 trillion Ugandan shillings roads budget is priority. Says Ramadan Gobi, the PSST. To that matter, well, let us see how far this will be really. If it's priority, we need to see how it's going to be really put into absolute implementation. Of course, we know that the capital city, that is Kampala, well, some areas are quite a little bit inaccessible, which is making the cost of maintenance of the vehicles rising every other day. Remember, the servicing aspect, and you find that if you're supposed to do this monthly, you're going to find yourself doing it on a weekly basis, or even in a fortnight, 2 weeks there. That's something which is not quite very okay. But especially if I'm to look at people that are doing commercial transport, and leaving alone the people that, it's your private car, you use it to go to work, well, but there is somebody that is using that car as a source of income. So they really find it quite very disturbing.
Well, Andrew, I'm seeing something here interesting, and it's a question. Can government walk the talk?
Can the government walk the talk? That is very...
That is something you should be asking yourself as a Ugandan.
Yeah.
With that being said, the budget being read, can government really walk
its talk?
That is what everyone is anticipating. That is what everyone is really looking forward to.
Yeah.
The budget has been laid. Locations have been put out.
Okay.
We're waiting for the work.
Let's wait for the work. But you see, sometimes governments really face challenges to execute their budgets, because sometimes it can be some sort of shortages. Because, okay, assuming that you say that part of this money you're going to raise it from the tax revenues, and you give the different revenue authorities targets. We've seen cases where, of course, you may fail to get the targets, and if the revenue authority, it could be Uganda, any country, and I want to just give into Uganda, because this question doesn't only apply to Uganda, but it's universal, to all governments, most especially Africa, if we were to put it in that context. But there is that hardships when it comes to collections from the revenues. Sometimes there is a shortage of targets, and when there is that kind of a shortage, sometimes if you budgeted very well, it's hard for you to inconvenience a certain allocation to cater for this one in that aspect. So you find that sometimes there is a delay in implementing what you had planned for that sector. There's not a shortage somewhere, because you need to be on your budget, because if you can't get us your budget, you're heading towards something which is not really right. So sometimes I can be a little bit lenient to governments why they don't walk the talk. Okay, of course sometimes it's due to the issues of within the government, but we can't rule out the external factors which are really associated with that due to the different reasons regarding that matter. Well, it's 26 minutes past 7. And of course, now we are heading into the break. But don't forget, the markets on the Zabo platform are going to be opening at exactly 8:15 a.m. Now, the ultimate question is here: what should I do to be a part of this? Well, it's very simple. Star 292 hash is the USSD code for you there, where you will be available with a number of options. You will be able to buy government bonds and securities for just as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Yes, the markets open at 8:15 a.m. and they'll be closing at 3:15 p.m. East African time. And this is going to be effective up to Friday. Yes, up to Friday. These markets are going to be accessible, apart from the weekends when you can access them. And also the public holidays, the markets are not accessible. But this week, the rest of public holidays. So that means you still have the rest of the 3 days to make quite some good money. Now, Zabo made this a reality, and it simply says, my money, my future. And Alterx East Africa tells you, do something new for yourself come the year 2023. Well, right about now, let's get into this break. And definitely when we return, we shall be taking a look at what's making headlines that is around the East African community, and definitely wind it up with the international business news. Good morning.